Hello, this is Photography Gamer, welcome back to the channel. In today's episode I'll be looking at the photo mode in Tom Clancy's The Division 2. I'll be breaking down the photo mode functions. Following that I will focus on the episode's special topic, the problem with online photo modes, where I'll focus on those online games that you can't pause and why that makes virtual photography such a struggle in that genre. And I'll also provide my thoughts on how the industry could remedy this. Finally, I'll conclude the episode with some questions I've received from the virtual photography community. Okay, The Division 2, well, it's got a pretty good photo mode, it's got some nice functionality, some good options. Obviously being online it is a problem, but you can still take good pictures, so let's break down the basic functions first. To enter the photo mode, pause the game and hold down the square button. Okay, so now you have the L and R analog sticks, they move the camera. You can use L2 and R2 to zoom. L1 and R1 tilt, so that's good if you want to create a bit of a dynamic movement or some surreal imagery. Square resets the camera to its original position. If you press X, that will capture the photo. Circle will reset. The D-pad is like an offsetting mechanism, so you can move the camera up, down, left and right. If you click L3, that will show you more controls. If you click R3, that will play an emote of your choice. If you want to hide the user interface, press the options button, and finally press the triangle button if you want to modify the image. So those are just the basic functions. The other settings are in the modify menu and broken down into 7 tabs. Okay, tab 1 is adjust. The first thing on there is exposure, so that's really a way of brightening the image or darkening the image, or if it's overexposed because of sunlight, like dark and light areas next to each other, exposure is a good way of balancing those things off. Then we have contrast. That kind of makes the differential between things you see more severe, so it kind of makes it more harsh of an image, but it's a nice way of just adding a bit of clarity, a bit of kind of like succinctness to the image. Finally there's saturation, so that really adds color or takes color away, so you slide it up to get more, you slide it down to get less, so you can go black and white if you go all the way down. Be careful with going too high because it can look really kind of weird if you go very high on the saturation. Tab 2 is focus. First thing on there is f-stops, then you've got mode. So let's talk about the mode first. That's center or manual. So manually you can select the area where you want to focus. So you would use the analog stick to move the object over the subject you want to focus on, and then you press the R2 trigger to set that as the focus point. Usually I would do that if I want to take a portrait of my character. Center just focuses centrally on the image. And then f-stop dictates the what sort of focus are you using. F-stops really measure focus range, so if you have like f.22, that's probably the highest setting, which means everything you see in the image will be in focus and clear. If you go all the way down to like f1.2 or whatever it is in this game, there will be a very small area in the image that's in focus. Everything else will be blurry, so it depends if you want to do a blurry with small area of focus or wide open complete focus. It's really a style choice for you. Tab 3 is filters, so you've got type of filter and strength. So the game's got some pretty decent filters. Again, you just need to look at which ones suit the image you're taking, because you don't always need to use a filter, but sometimes they can really add some nice quality to your image. But quite often filters are very harsh, so if you want to just mute the effect, use strength. Slide that down, because if you use 100% it will be very severe. Slide it down until you've got to a point where you think, okay, that's a nice sort of balanced image. Tab 4 is pose. So in here you can play emotes and you can rotate your character, whether you want them to face the front or just rotate them one little bit at a time. Now the emotes are all generally in motion, so it means you have to be quite quick at taking the photo because the emotes don't freeze you in that position. So there's enough options in the game, but you have to unlock them and you use the emotes you choose to sort of accentuate your image. Tab 5 is vignettes. Now a vignette is like a shadowy dark border around your image, with the idea being the center of the image is clear The edges of the image are dark, and it's just about how much strength and offset you want to put between the center and the edges. Do you want it to be very subtle? Do you want a very, very subtle border that just, without really noticing it, makes you look at the center? Or do you want really, really harsh, dark borders? Tab 6 is border. Here we have logo, type, and offset. So you can choose which logo you'd like to place if you want to do sort of like an advertisement, I suppose, for the Division 2. Then you have type, which gives you different types of borders like widescreen, square, etc. And then with the offset feature, you can then manipulate those even further to sort of perfectly create an image that suits your kind of border requirement. Okay, final tab is noise. So we have strength. Now noise, a lot of people don't want to use noise because they like this sort of super smooth idea, like 4K, 10K, 100K, whatever you want to call, like super slick, smooth, futuristic sleekness of an image. Noise is a very useful tool in photography because it adds texture, depth, atmosphere. It's a really useful tool, so don't be afraid of it. Okay, that is the photo mode for Tom Clancy's The Division 2. Overall, I'd say it's a pretty good mode. I mean, good points, comprehensive settings for sure, nice post-production options, it's got good grain effects, and a nice adjustable border set for portrait orientation shots. That's a really nice feature. The bad points, I'd say you can't hard pause the game, so action shots aren't really possible. There's no facial expression modifier, no fixed stance modifier, and the aperture is a little bit, it's not as smooth as in some games, like in the Spider-Man games, for example, where it was super smooth. But I'd say overall, I'd give it like a 9.25 out of 10 for the photo mode, because it's got really nice functionality. It's not its fault that the game is online only and you can't hard pause it. Also, I'd say maybe that the photo mode font is a little bit small and difficult to read at times. You know, larger fonts would have been preferential. You know, a few other things like emotes, change of stance, but generally it's pretty good. Okay, so that's the photo mode done. Now we are on to the special topic. The problem with online photo modes. Okay, so we've all played games like The Division 2 that are online only. You know, they're great games if you just want to jump in with your friends, but it's not so great for virtual photographers. Because despite these games usually having a photo mode, due to the online option only, it means you really can never truly pause or freeze frame the action. So it kind of renders a lot of genres of virtual photography redundant, leaving only really landscapes and static portraits as your main options. Yes, if you've got friends who are willing to pose for you, you can create some unique stuff, but again, there's no natural freeze frame, which is a real reason that photo modes in games like The Division 2 don't really fulfill their potential. So what could we do about this as a community? What could the games industry do about this? Well, one feature that would remedy this would be a record function. Let's say there was a button you could press and it would record the last 10 to 15 seconds of your action. But not just record it, it would save the actual gameplay as an editable clip that you could adjust frame by frame in a kind of post-production integrated photo mode. It would mean you could capture any moment without having to interrupt the online gameplay, and in fact it might make for better shots as you could review the clips at your leisure and, you know, really take your time with the capture rather than that rushed feeling you get in some games. Hopefully with the next gen consoles the developers will see a solution to this, otherwise online photo modes are always going to give gamers a bit of a problem. What do you think the developers could do to remedy this? Put that in the comments section. Okay, so we are nearly done for this episode, just a few questions from the community. So question 1, I want to take shots of my character with a black background, how do I do that? Well, in that instance, you're better off looking for a nighttime situation or a dark interior with some like bright source lights. So you want to find like an indoor housing situation where there's a light and dark corridors. Go to the dark corridor, have that in the background, have the source light in front of you so it's illuminating your character only, and take the picture there. Then you can make put a vignette on it, you can make the dark areas darker, you can increase contrast, and you may not be absolutely be able to get a perfect black background, but you'll be able to get pretty close. So that's probably the best tip I could give you for that. Okay, last question. If a game doesn't have a photo mode, what advice do you have for creating good shots? Well, we've all played those ones, it's tricky. First thing, you can take the HUD off. If you can remove whole HUD elements, do that. If there's a first person mode, you can take the HUD off, use first person mode. That works in something like Red Dead. Or even in like the Dark Souls games, when you get binoculars, you could use the binoculars as like a sort of a fake camera and take pictures of things around you in the environment. It's not ideal, but if a game doesn't have a photo mode, you don't really have a lot of choice. So try and be creative, that's what I would say. Take the HUD off, first person, think about in-game items, think about playing online with a friend. Can they take a picture of you just by looking at your character? You know, there's always some kind of way around it. Okay, well there you go, that's another episode in the can. Thank you for watching. I hope you found the video useful. I hope you found it informative. If there's any questions, put them in the comments and I will do my best to help you out. Hopefully you can use the Division 2 in an easier way, take some nice pictures and see what you can create. Enjoy, and I will catch up with you next time. So this is Photography Gamer signing off. Thank you.